The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While we discuss topics related to mental health, well-being, and emotional support, we are not providing therapy or medical services. Always seek the advice of your physician, psychologist, psychiatrist, or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. If you are in crisis, feeling unsafe, or need immediate support, please contact a mental health professional or emergency services in your area. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organizations or institutions.
Get inspired, get motivated with Maya Akai and the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast.
Something that I take pride in is trying to be forward thinking, thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you.
Find Maya on Twitter and Instagram at Maya_Akai. On Facebook at Maya Akai Presents.
We're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing.
Or get everything Maya at MayaAkai.com.
Namaste, everyone. And by the way, happy Mental Health Awareness Month. With that being said, you're in the right place. But welcome to another episode of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. And this episode, we're going to take a deep dive into a big question. Are you living a life by design or by default? So to try to answer that question, we're going to have to really try to figure out how to address how you can escape that busy trap that life can set for you, and to learn how to evolve into the architect of the choices you make in your life. So now with that said, if you are a first-time listener or viewer, welcome to the show. Always love to have new people coming on board. I always just say buckle up for safety, because occasionally it could be an unexpected bumpy ride, because maybe we might just say something that you never thought or considered. And if you happen to be a first-time listener or viewer, don't fret if you find this so interesting and engaging and you want to go back and check out some of the former episodes, because I feel like each episode builds. Don't worry, you can always find episodes of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audibles. Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. The easy thing to do is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's at M.A.Y.A Speaks to You, as well as that's also the handle for all of my social media. So you can find me on Facebook, X, as well as Instagram. So you can keep abreast of the show that way too. But I've also made this a little bit easier for you. You can take M.A.Y.A on the go. By now, hopefully, you'll know if you're a returning listener and viewer. But for my new people, there's actually an app, the M.A.Y.A Experience. It's available on the Apple, Amazon, and now in the Google Play Store. All you have to do is just search the M.A.Y.A Experience, and voila, you'll always be aware of what's going on. Remember, you can also be engaged in this conversation as well. If you've got a question or you want to join the conversation, just post in the comments and chat on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll try to integrate them into the show as well. Now, you know all that, of course, if you are a returning listener and viewer. Always appreciate everything you do. You know how we get down here for the next 30 to 40 minutes. Sit back, find that space where you can have, your coffee, your tea, your beverage of choice. I always say grab a pencil and paper, because you might need to jot some things down that you want to go back and revisit later on after the show is over. Now, we talked about this episode about, how to become the architect of your choice. And what that really means is how to live a life with intention. That's what most of us often really struggle with. So, because most of us spend our days, to be honest, reacting to situations and the noise that presents itself, whether it's good or bad. But there is a profound power to be said in shifting from being merely a person who's just acting or reacting to truly being intentional and responding. So in this episode, we're going to break down the things that you can do to start to shift the way you move and start living a life with intention. And that means shifting in the way that you think and you feel, and ultimately how you decide to act. Because the key thing is we want to help you reclaim your agency. If you've heard that word before and you're like, well, how does that apply to me? Simply put, agency, by let's say a Webster's dictionary definition, is your capacity to be able to act independently, make free choices, and exert power to achieve the goals that you set out for yourself. So if you're not acting with agency, you might say to yourself, that sounds like something I want to learn and I want to start doing. So when we talk about trying to live that life with intention, it's not something that's easy. We're going to discuss that process today because it's a 4-step process that exists. One, it's about acknowledgement. It's about stripping away the should haves and facing your life with radical acceptance of what is actually happening. Once you do that too, you have to evaluate what is it that you've now picked up. And then you have to sift through the noise that can be so overwhelming in our lives, because that's how we get so easily distracted and just start acting and not always making the choices that we want that are in our best interest. So when you decide you're going to step back and evaluate, that allows you to say, what exactly am I doing right now? And is this really serving the purpose of the person that I'm interested in becoming? And once you've done that, then you have to assess, move from the values that maybe you've held so close that truly maybe don't truly reflect where you sit emotionally and mentally. And you have to go from just values to being more strategic in what you decide to do. Because the true cost of staying still or just accepting chaos and toxicity in your life often means that you end up not being happy. And then fourth, acting. You take all that analysis you've made, you break it down so you can get away from what I would refer to as analysis paralysis. Like, you know what you think, you know what you feel, but you just can't act. Acting is a part of this process. So then you begin to make those moves that allow you to have internal conviction of where you want to go when you move forward. So it is time to stop letting life happen to you and instead focus on building the life you deserve, creating the legacy that you have created in your mind. And believe it or not, it's one intentional break at a time. Now, in saying all that, one of the things that we do have to understand in this, which can be hard, is that because of how we spend so much of our time and often accommodating others. You know what's interesting? People can tend to be more intentional with their actions when it less impacts them. Like at work, we know exactly what's expected of us when we have a job, and we understand how to show up and do the things that are expected of us. Well, it's no different in your everyday life. If you have not created some form of expectation for yourself, you have to ask yourself the question, then how can you make the shift? How can you live intentionally? So the same energy you often put in other places, you need to start putting that energy with you. So we talked about the 4 things that you need to do to really be able to make that shift, to see the change that you want to see in your life. And it isn't always easy, and that's okay. But let's jump right into that. So what does it mean to live a life with intention? Let's start with that. Let's give a framework for what we're talking about here. So in a world, it's so easy that busy is often placed over the idea of something being meaningful. So that's the first thing. Are you being busy, or are you doing things in your life that are intentional, moving you forward, that has meaning for you? It is incredibly easy to spend years living on autopilot, going through the motions. And then one day you wake up and realize that you don't feel fulfilled and you're not happy. So we react, for instance, to emails. We react to crises in our lives. We react to expectations of others. But we are often slow on the draw to react and to respond. Because hear what I said, you react to emails, you react to crisis, you react to what others expect, not respond. Because when you respond to things, that's what intention actually looks like. But we often fail to do that with ourselves. So there's a profound difference between being active and being intentional. Life with intention isn't about perfection. And a lot of people struggle. In fact, they will avoid things because they think if it's not perfect, it's not worth it. No, because perfection is something that one is rarely and often hard to even achieve in the rare existence that it has. It's about being the architect of the choices that you make to make sure that you are making decisions that align with what you are trying to achieve in your life, that should align with your morals and values. But strategically, you're moving forward with those things that you actually do. So now we've talked about, so what does it mean to live with intention? It's acting in a way that you're not just reacting to things, but you give it thought, you've evaluated, and you respond in a way that you are happy with the choice that you made. And then you don't have to find that now you have to go back and do cleanup work because in the moment you reacted to something because you thought that's what someone expected of you. Instead, we're going to learn to respond. So we talked about, okay, well, there's a process to this, right? Well, Maya, what does the process look like? How can I become this architect of choice? Well, there's a 4-step engagement that we're going to have to really talk about that's based in reality. And I say this because this is a hard one for a lot of people, because a lot of people believe they're being 100 or they're being realistic about things, and they're really not. Because if most of us step back when we talk about wanting to be that architect in our life, the hard choice is seeing something that you are doing that you're not happy with. The last episode was about emotional paralysis. You know what you think, you know what you feel, but you cannot act and you're stuck. So you have to be able to say, how can I now make these choices to move me forward? Because you're struggling to find that balance in your emotional and mental spaces. Okay, well, let's break it down. It's a 4-step process. The first step, and we talked about this, is about acknowledgement. And what acknowledgement basically means is that this is where you begin with accepting what's happening in your life and you do not sugarcoat it. You need to be concise. You need to be clear and look at the present moment of what is happening for better or for worse. And choosing to not acknowledge the worst is often why you don't live with intention, because people don't like to deal with what's uncomfortable. And God forbid, if we say risk, people often want to back away. But a life worth living is going to have some risk, people. And that's one thing that people often will struggle with. So you cannot make a change to a situation if you refuse to see it. And that's the first start. You have to acknowledge. Acknowledging your life situations means you're going to strip away the stories that we tell ourselves, like the should haves. I should have done this. I could have done that. And we're not looking at the facts. Sometimes we're just dealing in the emotion of what we failed to do. Remember, I talk about DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, which says there's 3 ways that you can think, and you want to get to what's that wise mind. There's that feeling mind where feelings can drive how you choose to react to things. You have a logical mind that wants to look only at facts and discount feeling. But the wise mind says there's a space here for how I feel along with logic. I have to be willing to reconcile them. But that doesn't start until you acknowledge the situation. So whether it's a stagnant career, a draining relationship, or an opportunity that just seems so complicated, you have to acknowledge what it is in the moment. So you have to step out of denial and into the driver's seat to say, here's what's happening. Doesn't matter how I feel about it. These are the facts. And because this is what's happening, this is how it's impacting me and the outcomes that I'm not looking to have in my life, because I'm not making those choices. We first must acknowledge what is happening in front of us before anything else actually can be done. And I'll be honest, looking in the mirror is often the hardest thing for people to do, because that means you have to be honest with yourself. And if you've been living a life of not being truly honest with yourself, the first step is the hardest step in this process. But then once you've grown, you can say, this is a situation. I do not like my job. I am not happy here. I do not feel that I am valued. I do not feel appreciated. I feel overwhelmed. I feel used. I feel underused. Whatever the case may be, you make the decision about why you think you're not happy with the situation. And then you think about, how can I change this? Am I seeing it correctly? This is why being honest about something is important. I always say this to people. You can't be upset with your boss if you call into work frequently for different reasons, whether it be your health, personal situations, childcare. A person didn't hire you for your problems or issues. They hired you to do a job. And you have some people that will honestly get upset when a manager can't fully make a concession for their personal needs. There's only so far a job maybe can go. But when people aren't willing to accept the fact that, well, technically they didn't hire me for my personal issues, I have to figure this out because now it's impacting me at work. But it's easier to blame the job for seeming undervalued. You must see what's in front of you. So if your boss is on your case all the time because you're late to work, how can you be mad about being late to work because you're late? But that's when people aren't willing to take knowledge and be honest and be present about the situation. So now that you're being honest and you're assessing and acknowledge something, then you can move to the next step in the process about this radical reality you're trying to create for yourself about your situation. Evaluate so then you can sift through the noise. We often have so much noise in our lives, people demanding things of us. We wear many hats. We are often partners. We are employees. Sometimes we are bosses. We are daughters or sons. We are cousins. We are grandkids. We are best friends. We wear many hats. But the most important hat you wear is the hat of self. And if you don't value that, it's a problem. So being able to value you more means sifting through all that noise that comes from all those different spaces that you might work in. So once a situation has been acknowledged, say it's your job, that's the point of contention, or it's a relationship, we must then evaluate it through the lens of our core values. If I say that I believe in integrity and I believe in being a person who is ethical, then if you find you're doing things that don't align with that, ask yourself why. If you say you actually value work, but yet you struggle to get to work, ask yourself, is it the job that's the issue? Or is it me struggling with the job itself because I'm not happy with it? You have to be honest and truly do the assessment. Does this situation serve you as a person that you want to become? Or is it something that's just a bridge? Is it a step in the journey? Look at where you're at and figure out this is only a short-term place, destination for me. It's not the final place I want to be. So now you're being realistic about how you're moving and what that movement should look like. Evaluation is about ultimately evaluating the gaps between where you are and where you want to be. It is the process of distinguishing between a distraction versus where the actual destination is. How many people never arrive to where they want to be because they went off the path? But often it's because one, they never even had a map to know how to get to their destination. If you're just flying by the seat of your pants because that's who you are as a person, fantastic. But if you find you're not achieving or getting to where you want to be, that means you're failing to plan. Hence, you're not achieving the things that you want. So evaluate that situation, like how much of this noise is keeping me off of my path versus how much of me is just being distracted from the noise. That's key. So that evaluation process, once you've acknowledged what the issue is, becomes key. All right. So now that you've done the evaluating, you're like, well, why is evaluating a little bit different than assessing? Because evaluating is looking at pros, cons, what's good, what's bad. And assessing is now that I've evaluated the situation, I have to assess how I can do things now to change what that evaluation has told me. The assessment is what helps you to build the actual action plan. And that's where people stop in the process often. So while you evaluate what's going on, because you're going to be evaluating the feelings, you're going to be evaluating the values or morals that are behind your decision making. That's about assessing how the strategy should look. This is the stage where you should be looking at what are my resources? Maybe I'm lacking something, and this is why I'm not on the path that I want to travel. What are my strengths? Am I lacking something that I need to be able to achieve my goals? What are my weaknesses as well? This is something that's required, and clearly I don't have that. So knowing your strengths and your weaknesses can also be the thing that helps you to get back on track. And what are the obstacles? Let's be clear about something. Sometimes the obstacles in our life are people, places, and things, and that can hurt. Because a lot of times we have an affinity for those things and we don't want to let them go. But if it's stopping you or impeding your progress, you have to ask yourself, is that obstacle worth more than I value myself? And if so, why? And maybe you need to go back to the beginning of acknowledgement and then also evaluation to really get better and deeper into your assessment. So you take the time to assess, which is the strategic time to plan how to make those moves to get on track to become the person you want to be. And the last step, which is not the easiest, is definitely the hardest part, is you've done all of the acknowledgement, you have evaluated, and you've created a plan through assessment, and now it's time to act, which means you should do things that align with what you've identified. Alignment is key. When things are not aligned, they don't tend to give you the outcomes you want, and that's most things in life. So now it's about creating alignment with your values and your actions. And that can be where the work gets hard and when people often fall off. It's the final step, but it's the most vital part of this process. You have to make decisions that align with your passion and your purpose. Many people, like I just said, get stuck in analysis. So they're in analysis paralysis. They know what they think, they know what they feel, but they really just can't seem to pull the trigger to move forward. And that's where they're missing intention, because action that aligns is where attention, that's when intention comes to life for you. It's different from reaction. I always tell people reacting to things means you didn't give it thought, you might have went with feeling, and you find yourself not often happy with the outcome, and now you might have to do some cleanup work. Well, when you take the time to do these process, you can act once. Great saying, as my grandmother used to say, may she rest in peace. She used to always say, think twice and act once. Give what you think you need to do the thought, and give it a thought again to make sure it's the action that you really want. That's being intentional. So then you can stand behind whatever you've made that decision, because you've given it the thought, not just the feeling to drive you. You're not just reacting. Now you're responding. And that's where we want to get to. Because when you act with intention, you aren't just solving a problem. You are making a statement about who you are. Every decision you make, from the way you spend your morning to the way you lead your business, how you conduct yourself personally or privately, whatever it may be, professionally, all these things are what people determine who they believe you are. So if you're not acting with intention and you wonder maybe why people don't take you serious or you don't feel respected, stop and ask yourself the question, am I doing the things that command that response from people? And if you find that you're not, then you can't question why you're not getting the response that you want. And if you are feeling like you are doing those things and people are failing you to meet you where you're at and showing up, now you got to think about the circles you're moving in. If you remember the episode from last week, emotional paralysis, you got to ask yourself, if you feel like you're moving in circles and it feels like it's a cage, that's a problem, because good things in your life should feel like a compass. They should be pointing you in the direction of your true north, your true emotion, your true feelings, your true thoughts, and anything that takes you off your true north. Why is it in your life? And if you value it more than you value you got to go back to the point with acknowledgement, evaluate, assess, so that you can figure out how you need to act. Those are the 4 things that are so important when you're trying to lead a life with intention. And by the way, it's not easy, because the shift is about purpose-driven results. And this is where people struggle, especially if this is not a habit that you've developed. Because what I'm talking about here, these 4 steps that I want you to learn, these don't happen overnight. This is going to become a behavior that you put in motion, that you develop as a habit. You developed poor habits that you've probably done your whole life. You can't just unpack those in one moment and assume you get to throw them all away and things change, because that's not what intention is. The first step in intention is you acknowledged that you were not moving in ways that you wanted to. So the shift is about becoming purpose-driven, getting the results you want, because living with intention turns the noise into your life. It turns it down, but you become the maestro of the orchestra in your life. So even you can control the noise. You can decide how much noise you allow to keep flooding and distracting you from where you really want to be. By choosing to live with intention, you then begin to transform the mundane task in your life that you were doing into purposeful steps, because now you're doing things with you at the center of your focus versus others. By acknowledging our reality, and boy, is that a toughie, let me just tell you, evaluating it is worth assessing our path, how we choose to act. It will tell you about your alignment, but more importantly, it allows you to reclaim that agency that I talked about. And remember again, agency. You might have heard the word before and didn't think much about it. But agency is that capacity that you have to act independently, to make free choices, but more important, to exert the power to achieve the goals that you have set out for yourself. You are acting in accordance with what you think and you feel in a way that's intentional with how you want to show up, because it is how you want to be seen. So here's the takeaway. It's pretty straightforward. It's not a lot to say on this. Stop drifting, start designing. Ask yourself, are you living by design or by default? Are you living the life that maybe someone else gave to you? When we first enter into this world, we are a blank slate. And many people write on that slate from us. Our parents, friends, grandparents, teachers, we're young minds. We are clay. We have a lot of things that are poured into us. And when you start to live a life with intention, you start to make that decision. There might have been some things that were poured into me that don't align with who I am now as the person I am trying to become. And it's okay to decide to remove things off your plate so you can begin to live that life that you are actually seeking out. I know, seems like a lot, but you can do it. It's a 4-step process and it takes time. And I'm going to encourage you not to attempt to rush through this in any way, shape, or form. All right, everybody. Well, again, thank you for listening to this episode. As I said, the whole purpose of my podcast, often, if you've been listening for a while, is to help you to identify your ambition, to harness that motivation, to help you to acquire the success that you seek in your everyday life. Not just the future, but I want you to be able to bask in the present with intention and to live the life that has value to you. And it only starts with doing the work. And I know it's not easy. So again, if you missed the last episode, which was about emotional paralysis, remember these episodes have been building. You can always find episodes on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audibles. Just search Maya, My Ambition, Your Ambition. And to be honest, a real easy way to actually get the episodes too, you can just go to my website, maya-speaks.com, and you can listen to episodes there as well. Of course, if you just subscribe to the YouTube channel at Maya Speaks to You, you'll never be out the loop because it'll give you alerts when there are new episodes actually coming up. So I would encourage you to subscribe, but also make it easy for yourself. Get the app. Take Maya on the go. So no matter where you're at, what you're doing, you can always listen to an episode. Maybe you're commuting from work. You can pull out the app, listen, and there you go. So remember, you can find the app in the Apple, Amazon, and now in the Google Play stores to search Maya Experience. It's the Maya Experience, actually, and the app is there. It's free. So it costs you nothing to put this into your repertoire of your self-care or actually working on your mental health. All those spaces. And something else that I do, and I always try to encourage people to check it out, is on my website. There's a lot of things on the website that I like to encourage people to check out as we're wrapping up the show. It's everything Maya as well. So you can always book me to come and talk to you about different things about mental health. So whether it's at your job or if you want to get a group of friends together and do some mental health awareness, I do small groups too, because intimate settings often can be the most enlightening things that can happen. You can listen to the podcast from the website. I have my Me on Pause blog. It's my menopause blog. And anyone should know by now, I am the poster child for menopause, and I am looking to educate women because menopause is not one size fits all. And I'm going to tell you, you're getting a lot of information and a lot of products thrown at you. And guess what? Some of it may not even apply to you. I want to help you to understand what your menopausal journey looks like. And of course, all the links to the app is right there as well. So you can get the app and right there, you've got Maya on the go and everything is right there. All right, everybody, until next time, as I always say, your future is your past and your present is no more. So you should live every day to the fullest. So until next time, everyone, stay amazing, stay inspired, get motivated. But more importantly, don't be afraid to take that leap of faith that you can make the changes in your life to have the happiness that you seek out. And I'm here to help you. Until next time, everyone, stay amazing.
Whether you're on the go or listening on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop, you can find the show in the iTunes, Google, and iHeartRadio platforms.
With all due respect, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just search Maya, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and get ready to be inspired and motivated to harness your ambition.